Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, to this meeting of the Council of the Town of Oakville. I invite everyone to join Council in rising and participating in O Canada. Thank you, everyone. Please be seated. As is our custom, I will now give our opening prayer, and that'll be followed by a moment of silent reflection, and then we'll begin the meeting proper. God, grant us understanding and patience, that justice, truth, and honesty may be evident in our decisions. Make us mindful of the needs of the people throughout the town of Oakville. Help us govern with the wider community in mind, and so create in us a desire for progress and responsible action. We ask this in your name. Amen. Thank you, everyone. Madam Clerk, do we have any regrets this evening?
Yes, we have regrets from Councillor Knoll, unless he may be able to join us later on into the meeting.
Okay, thank you. Council, are there any declarations of pecuniary interest? Thank you. See none. How do you wish to deal with the minutes that are before you from the council meetings of June 23rd, 24th, and 7th of July? Councillor Khan? Any changes? All those in favor?
I need a seconder.
Oh, we need a seconder, Councillor Johnston, and they're approved. We have no public presentations, but we do have a delegation or two, and I would ask the clerk to call the listed delegations at this time.
Our first delegation is Charlene Pluman, Executive Director of the Downtown Oakville Business Improvement Area, regarding the strategies for Oakville Main Street commercial areas, item 9 of the Community Services Committee meeting.
To the other listed delegates, while we're waiting, if you could move to the center aisle, you could make the meeting more efficient by being ready when you're called. Welcome, Ms. Pluman. Council looks forward to your information.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I do have the presentation on the stick if the audience would prefer seeing it to watch along. If that's something that can be loaded, that's great. If not, it's pretty self-explanatory. There is 20 copies being delivered right now. So we'll start without. It's here if you prefer. Thank you. It should be the only thing on it. Thank you. For the sake of everyone's time, I'll get started while it's loading. So thank you, Mayor Burton and Council, for receiving me today and hearing what we have to say on item 9. First, we'd like to say that we are very much in support of the report that's being presented to you by staff today. We'd like to thank staff for their hard work that they've put into this report, and we'd like to thank them for hearing us and showing that they're hearing us and responding. So we do really appreciate that. We think there are some great initiatives being put forward by that report, as was discussed at the Community Services Committee meeting last Monday. We do also have a large number of people who are excited about and have shown support, for Mayor Burton's request that staff put together a plan for a free parking initiative as per his letter dated April 8th, 2014. We've surveyed 311 residents. Of those 311 residents, 303 are in support of a free parking option, so that's an overwhelming majority. 62% of survey respondents indicated that free parking would entice them to come downtown more often, which is certainly the goal of any free parking initiative. We had 96% of BIA members respondent in favor of Mayor Burton's letter that free parking initiative be put forward. Some of the comments from our survey included absolutely, long overdue to eliminate parking issues in downtown, look to copy Delray Beach, Florida, policy on free parking. It's currently no fun to visit stores on Lakeshore. We certainly need that attitude to be changed. And one reason I don't shop downtown is due to the high price of parking. I would go if it were free for a few hours. So those are just a few of the 69 comments we received on the subject as part of those 303 responses that we're in support of. We know that the J.C. Williams Group indicated that downtown has to be a well-rounded destination, and we need to be able to entice people to come forward for multiple reasons. One of the things that people strongly said in our survey was that they would come down not only to shop, but to use the square, to use the library, to use the water. These are all things that they would love to do. In fact, those reasons came second down to dining. And it's something that's tricky to do and enjoy while you're then having to worry and pay for parking if you're coming to enjoy a free or near free activity. The most frequent use that people listed for coming downtown was dining. There wasn't an indication of this is because it's free or not, but it should be noted that it is free parking at that time, and there doesn't seem to be any restrictions for why people want to come down and use it then. Not to say that our restaurants still don't need them as much support as possible at this tough time. And the more we can get people coming down and strolling, so to increase that number of people who say they'd like to come down and stroll, the more chance we have for businesses, for the merchants. You may come down for a coffee, and that may remind you there's a shop right there that has a product you need. We need those people to come down freely just to stroll. If we look to the downtown experience, I think our three areas, Kerr, downtown, and Bronte, help make Oakville what it is today and help to contribute it to be the most livable town. I think that our property values in the immediate surrounding area are based in part by unique high streets, and we need to make sure our high streets do continue to thrive. Our brand needs to be enjoyable and enticing. We can't be seen as less convenient as our other options in the area. And I think this would be a real visual sign that the town continues to listen to what the residents and the merchants are looking for, to make it show that we are welcoming people to shop, dine, and live downtown. Overall, we're in need of seeing the immediate action. As I stated, we are in favor and would like to see the recommendations in the staff report titled Oakville's Main Street Commercial Districts move forward, and to do so as soon as possible. We'd like to see the parking recommendations as per the 2012 study that was approved by Council at the end of 2013 also move forward as soon as possible. We'd like further consideration given to the concept of free parking. Specifically, let's look at Saturdays as a first initial introductory option. What we're considering is that Saturdays could move along much like Sundays do. Similar districts such as Burlington have seen big success. They have not seen a lot of abuse by merchants, as is some of the concern. They still see a lot of parking options and availability on Saturday, and they're hearing from their customers that they're enjoying this and it's making their stop in Burlington convenient. It was the lowest revenue cost, possibly $300,000 according to the Commercial Parking Wayfinding staff report on May 21st. Potentially even less, only because I'm not sure if this looked at it as a full model like Sunday where there would not be a need for enforcement above and beyond unsafe parking places. It's simple, easy to educate customers. They don't need to know this lot's this price, this lot's this price. You pay on the road, you don't pay on the lot. So it's simple for customers to understand and fairly low cost to implement. We would still be able to go ahead with the equipment that's been ordered already as per the parking study from 2012. So there'd be no changes there needed. In terms of execution, we would certainly make ourselves available to execute both the recommendations in the staff report and looking further into the option of the Saturday parking. We'd support either campaign or both campaigns with our own marketing strategies. We would work to educate merchants and customers about the new initiatives as they come forward, and we work together to enforce, if free parking on Saturday occurred, that employees weren't abusing the situation. Overall, again, we'd like to thank the staff for the very complex and complete report they put forward. We do encourage and support the idea of building a parking garage and doing so with urgency and before the construction. We enjoyed our first 2 days of having the ambassadors in town as part of the BIA and OTP initiative, and if it could be strengthened by support from the town, that would be wonderful as per the staff recommendation. So we do think that what's in there is wonderful, and we'd love to see some more studies from J.C. Williams as per the report. But we would also like the conversation about free Saturdays to continue, but without delaying these others from going forward. Thank you very much for hearing me today. I'd be pleased to answer any questions.
Thank you very much for your information. Are there questions? Councillor Robinson and then Councillor DeMont.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you.
There, is that better?
Thank you.
Thanks again for coming and telling us about your objectives. How many I need to be reminded, actually, how many parking spaces would you be using free on Saturdays? How many would be available to your shoppers?
I believe there's 1,800. I would have to defer to Mr. Cozy to confirm that, but I believe at the last check, there's 1,800, not counting the yacht club and the boating club. But I look to Mr. Cozy or his team to correct me on that, roughly. Yep.
I think he said that's right, so thanks very much.
Thank you.
Councillor DeMont.
Thanks for coming out, and also thanks for all your efforts on the downtown and to try and get things moving. And Midnight Madness looked like it was a great success. So,
Thank you.
one of the things in your presentation, Charlene, you did the survey of residents, 311 residents.
Yes.
Did you ask any of them about whether late hours would entice people downtown?
I did. There was 2 surveys for simplicity for the residents. One was simply asking in favor or not in favor of the parking, and another was more detailed. So there's 311 who responded in favor or no of the parking. 91 responded in terms of the more detailed. Of the 91, the most response for enticing people to come downtown at 61% was free parking. I have the other responses here. Hours raised was there. I believe it was 4th down in the list. So yes, it was there. And yes, people did indicate that later hours would be of a help, but not as much as free parking.
And what were some of the other ones that you had?
We had diversity in the shops, change in the price level of the shops, diversity in the events, frequency of the events. We had an option for them to provide their own input. And we had ease of being able to get there.
So has that survey been shared with our staff as well as, sorry, in terms of working with you on solutions for some of the issues that you've got?
It hasn't yet. It's still an open survey, but I'm happy to give them the results now and for them to know that it's still sitting as an open for that one in particular, because it's also gathering information that supports us above and beyond the parking. But I'm happy to send it as it comes along.
And your ambassadors downtown, I was reading some tweets on the weekend about where the people were coming from, which was fascinating. Are they collecting information like that as well?
We're trying to. Saturday was our first day. So we're feeling it out sort of as we go. It was interesting. I will admit, there was a guest book there, and I kind of thought, who's going to sign the guest book? We actually got at least 4, I believe 5 people signing, and most of them were people from far away who wanted to brag how far they've come. So it was actually quite a neat experience to be able to then interact with these people and find out why they were here. So I think it could be something that we do ongoing. I know we're looking to outfit them with tablets so that they can collect this information on an easier basis. To do it by hand is a little bit cumbersome for them, especially in the pouring rain, but tablets would certainly make it easier. So I know that's coming, and we'll look to have more survey information from them available.
Okay. Then on one of your other slides, you said, as per survey, most frequent use is during the evening. I'm a little confused. Is most frequent use of downtown?
Yeah, we had asked what brings them to downtown most often. So understanding that there could be other reasons that bring them down. Someone could come for dinner and shop, but we put in the most often. And 26% indicated that most often it was dining. That's obviously, that was the majority. It's vastly spread because the reasons for coming down, thankfully, are vast, which we want to keep.
Okay. All right, thank you.
You're welcome, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Demoff. Councillor Khan.
Thank you very much, Ms. Blumen. I don't know if this is ready already or not, but in terms of a preliminary number, how do we do with Midnight Madness? How do the retailers do this year?
It's really too early to say. Initial comments has been that it was good turnout, that there was good numbers, that numbers matched or exceeded other nights, but we have not done a survey yet, so that's just 2 or 3 people giving me their feedback. It would not be something I could base it on.
I'm sure we did better than we did last year in any
Certainly,
event.
no tornado.
I guess there's 2 mindsets, and I think the council has to grapple with this. One is, do we allow for free parking and hopefully entice customers down to the downtown area, or do we have that philosophy of build it and they will come, like events like Midnight Madness, and we talked about other types of activities downtown that will actually draw, like concerts and stuff that will draw crowds out. When you did this survey, do you like free parking, or would you like free parking, or did you lay out an option, free parking, as opposed to, like Councillor Elgar has been talking about, about patios outside and making more events per se, rather than just free parking?
Right, good question. There was both. Again, for simplicity, there was a single point answer saying, do you agree with these following initiatives? It was free parking, building a parking garage, and patios. They had the option to either click yes, I support, or put in comments as to why they did not support. So there was an option to do both. The more detailed survey listed out much more distinct options. So what would entice you to come downtown? More events, more patios, having easier parking, having free parking. There was a variety of things they could pick from the top 3, because we understand that people might like to see more events, and this would entice me. So it was there as an option for them to pick more than 3 or more than 1. For some questions, other ones, no, we wanted the specific, what do you most often do, like coming down, what brings you downtown most often?
What's your opinion, just leaving aside all the statistics that you have and the information that you've gathered? My belief is, and correct me if I'm mistaken, that I think people would be more likely to come downtown if there was events to go to, if there was activities planned, rather than free parking. I don't think parking per se is inhibitive of people. Well, then again, I have more parking tickets that I could wallpaper my room. But leaving that aside, I just think that more people will come if there are activities. Do you share that belief, or do you think that we would attract a bigger crowd just by allowing for free parking?
I think it needs to be a multi-pronged approach. I hate to continue to use such a dismal comparison, but if we look at treating someone with cancer, we do multiple. We don't just do chemo. We don't just do exercise. We don't just do radiation. I think we need to have a multi-pronged approach. We're certainly looking into, for the BIA standpoint, how we can have more frequent things happening more often. It becomes, for that, down to budget. How do we have something substantial enough that draws people, that's exciting enough within the budget we have? But I think there needs to be both. We can't necessarily draw everybody all the time. There was certainly people who chose not to come to Midnight Madness. A crowd isn't their thing. They'd rather come on a Saturday and have an easy, convenient shop. So I think we need to have a multi-pronged approach. So we're not looking at more events, but I think we need to look at both.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Giddings.
Thank you, Ms. Blumen, and congratulations on Midnight Madness.
Thank you.
You mentioned 311 respondents, and I believe you mentioned residents. Were those in store or online from a mailing list? I'm just curious in terms of, do you know the postal codes where the people are coming from?
So we don't know postal codes, but they were online, and they were from mail-outs from the Residents Association primarily. We did a mail-out, or an e-blast, sorry, an email, not mail, email out through the Residents Associations. We did email it out to our members as well. Some of them did fill it out, and some of them did forward it on to their customers. So the majority, I would assume, are coming from the Oakville residents. Several had put in where they're from and where they live. And certainly that people who put it in were residents within Oakville and not necessarily working downtown.
Did that go out through the Oakville Lakeside Residents Association and the Trafalgar Chartwell Residents Association, or did you make use of other RAs?
It went out through the Trafalgar Chartwell for sure. It's my understanding it went to the Oakville Lakeshore, but I haven't confirmed with Boyd. It went out to the West River Residents Association for sure. But I also had sent it to the other residents associations to forward along at their choosing. I know they want to make sure that their residents hear from them, and so it's up to them to forward on at their discretion so that they don't inundate their residents. So I can't say for sure, from there who did.
All right, just curious, and like some of the other councillors, I'd be very interested in seeing that going forward,
Certainly.
so I can hear what the residents are saying. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor. Councillor Grant.
Thank you, through Mr. Chair. Actually, my question is very similar to Councillor Giddings, but to be more precise, given that we know that some of these 311 people were from Oakville, do we know where in Oakville? How are we qualifying these responses, I guess, is the real question.
Right. We didn't look at them putting in where. We didn't want to hinder them being able to speak freely. So we didn't ask where, but to my knowledge, it wasn't distributed much beyond the boundaries of Oakville. I understand the chamber may have kindly distributed it for us as well, and I don't know the depth or the reach of their distribution list if they did forward along, so that's the only unknown. In terms of the others, it was simply through the residents associations. In terms of pockets of how many from the north, how many from southwest, how many from, I'm sorry, I don't know.
All right, thank you. I guess, again, the concern would be if you're just going by residents associations, there are some pockets, as you put it, that don't have residents associations. And I think if you're going to be looking at quality responses, real answers, you'd want to go for the people who, you'd have to seek them out, essentially. You'd have to find these people who wouldn't respond naturally because there's a reason why they're not coming downtown. And they wouldn't respond because they wouldn't come downtown anyways, so they wouldn't bother themselves with answering a survey. So I think in future, if you're going to be doing surveys, the best thing to do is to try and grab the people who would normally eschew any type of thing like this and just say, look, if you don't shop downtown, why is it? I think, in a sense, what I'm getting here is when people say, oh yeah, well, I'd shop more often downtown if there's free parking, you might be getting the people who possibly would come anyways, but oh, well, that's an extra incentive to me. I'm not sure if you'd agree with that, to put it as a question.
I would agree with you, and I think that's certainly the next step. This is just one layer of a process that has to go on because there is information from here that will help us know how to respond better as well. Things like Councillor Khan mentioned, should we do more events and what type? So I do want to keep this conversation with the residents ongoing, and approaching those who aren't coming is certainly a next step.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Grant. Councillor Demoff for another time.
Thank you. One of the things, free parking isn't really free. Someone has to pay for it. I'm wondering when that survey was sent out to residents, were they made aware? Everyone, I would say too, yeah, sure, I'd love to have free parking, but someone has to pay for it. So were they made aware that if it would be free for the people who were shopping downtown, but that their taxes could go up as a result because the town would be, someone is paying for that so-called free parking? Right.
I think it's a valid point. I think, and I say this with all due respect, we have a very highly educated community in Oakville, and I think they can, I would hope, sort of just put that together. I know, my taxes pay for schools that I don't currently use. I don't have any kids. They pay for other things that I don't currently use, but make the neighborhood a nicer place to live. And I'm pleased for them to go towards that because I want that happening in my neighborhood. So I guess it's whether or not they knew that. No, it wasn't phrased that way. But I would hazard a guess that most would know it does have to come from the town then, and that the town's money is their money. And I say that with all due respect. I'm not trying to be snarky.
No, I completely recognize that. And I think, I'm personally not a fan of free parking. I prefer having a multi-pronged approach, and I'm really pleased the town is spending a lot of money on all three BIAs with the different studies they're doing and the different initiatives they're looking at. So I think the route we're going is really good.
I agree.
And in terms of your survey, you've done a fabulous job. I think J.C. Williams also did a survey as well that was quite extensive, so it supplements what you've done. So I don't think it should be up to you on your own with all the other tasks that you have going to do the type of survey that I think J.C. Williams did do in their report in terms of where people are coming from. And so I applaud what you're doing, but I think you only have so many hours in a day to be able to do a broader survey. It would be great if you could stand up at Oak Park and talk to people why they're shopping there and not coming downtown. That would be a great intercept to do. But the other thing you had in here, Charlene, is you said something about Burlington free parking being a success. Did they have any reports that came to council to show that the free parking directly influenced sales, or was it more anecdotal that people said, yeah, it worked for us?
Right. They had a study that they put out shortly in January about Christmas and the first few Saturdays that was asking their merchants whether or not they saw it as an impact. In terms of ongoing from January until now, I haven't seen. It's more anecdotal in terms of talking to the merchants there and the BIA there.
And one last question. Has the BIA looked at paying for free parking? Because it's obviously something that the merchants feel is very important to them, and I think the town is looking at a broader, more, something that's broader for the whole downtown than just one initiative. So I'm just wondering, has the BIA looked at including some kind of free parking initiatives in your budget? Probably in the winter would make more sense than in the middle of the summer.
Yeah, sorry to cut you off.
Well,
Yeah, we have, and we are open to considering that further. It's one of the things I'd love to talk with the staff about in terms of free Saturdays. Is there something we can sort of co-cover, or is there more information they can give me to have me better assess what the BIA could cover and couldn't cover? It's obviously a bit of an expense we'd have to figure out. It might not be something that's in the budget for this year, but we're certainly open to looking at it for 2015 or perhaps December of 2014. Yes, it's something we would be open to considering, and I do appreciate the multi-pronged approach that the staff have taken. Again, I want to reiterate that I do think what they're putting forward is great, and we're in support of it.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you very much, Ms.
Thank
Perlman,
you.
for your
And if I could just have a moment, there are several people in the audience who gave of their time tonight just to say, yes, they were standing with the BIA on this. So I wanted to thank the people who did come out in the audience who aren't speaking but are here on behalf of us.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, the next delegation.
The next delegation is Bruce Miller, also here for item 9 of the Community Services Committee on Strategies for the Oakville Main Street Commercial Areas.
Welcome, Mr. Miller. Council looks forward to your information.
Thank you for having me. I apologize if this is a bit of a duplication from last week in the committee meeting, but for those that weren't here, I'm here to be able to speak on the amendment number 9 as well. My name is Bruce Miller. I'm a proud owner of the Works Gourmet Burger Bistro downtown on Lakeshore. If you haven't been there, then please do drop by. What I'm here to be able to talk about tonight is that overall, in terms of an objective, what we're looking for as merchants is everyday traffic. So, Councillor Khan, you talk about the events versus and the impact on business. My business was up on Friday versus last year. It was a fabulous event. Charlene and her group have put a tremendous amount of energy in to be able to do that. And it was successful. My business was up, but it was one day. So on Thursday, my sales were down, and on Saturday, my sales were down versus last year. And I shared with the council last time in terms of the committee meeting is that of the 26 sites that we have, my flagship store is actually in Oakville, and that unfortunately versus the other stores, they are all very similar in terms of sales, and then I'm down almost 20% in the downtown Oakville store. And we overinvest in marketing and advertising and everything you can think of because our head office is right above it. So on the question of events versus not, do we need to continue to do events? Absolutely. But what we need is everyday traffic. And that's why I do like the multi-pronged approach. I do believe what staff's brought forward is excellent. Second parking garage, as fast as we can build it, is excellent. Midnight Madness is a perfect example. I live on Riverside Drive, which is just up stone's throw from, and as I was walking back from Midnight Madness, there was literally cars parked all the way up on both sides of the street, halfway up Riverside, almost as far as Forester Park. And I actually counted, to answer your question, yes, I did, and there was 220 cars there. I believe the proposal for a parking garage would cover that nicely. So imagine a Midnight Madness event where all those people that were, I'm not going to say we're incredibly pleased about the fact that they were parking that far away, but for such a draw item, they were willing to be able to do it. And to be able to have a parking garage in downtown Oakville would be fabulous. They wouldn't have to be parking anywhere else. Never mind the number of people that were detracted not to come down because they knew they would have to park as close as, or as far away as my house, which is about a 20-minute walk. So the parking garage is excellent in terms of probably the inevitability of the construction being delayed on Lakeshore by a couple years. We also applaud, because one of the problems is the number of vacancies that are downtown Oakville, and having worked with the large landlords down there, it is a real struggle for them to be able to go and to lease their space when they're signing a 5-year lease to a tenant, and 2 of those years are likely to be with road construction. By pushing it out a couple of years, it allows the retailer or the landlords to be able to go to retailers to say, don't worry, it's a 5-year lease, you're going to be in good shape during that time period. So I applaud that as an initiative. Now, free parking, I can't stand up here without saying a quick note about it is that absolutely I'm in support of that. The 3-hour free parking is something that we've seen very successful in our other communities, such as Waterloo and Milton. It really is seen by their BIAs as something that drives people in terms of traffic. But the last one is around the patio project. So, I applaud staff in terms of the recommendations bringing forward patio. We do see in municipalities of the other stores that we're within is that having those extended patios are a good traffic builder, everyday traffic. So the patios we are in great support of. I've put myself forward as being a guinea pig. More than happy to be able to do it for this year, even though the patio season is about halfway finished. I've in fact already gone through and put in for my Alcohol and Gaming Commission license on the hope that council will approve that part of the project to be able to try to get ahead of it, because it's 30 days to be able to advertise for an alcohol permit, and there's nothing I can do about that in terms of timing. So I've already spent that money. I've set aside, it'll cost me about $5,000 to be able to build it. I'm willing to do that. That's an investment that I'm willing to do. The only ask that I would have is that in terms of fees, is those fees would put me over the edge in terms of doing it as a guinea pig project. If you look at other communities like Barrie, they've run it very successfully for years. Port Credit then copied that. Their town council in first year, recognizing if you build your own patio, they waive the fees for the first year. So you invest, we will invest to be able to support. And I would love to see that as an opportunity, excuse me, from this council for this year. And other than that, I just reiterate, I'm an open book. I will share my results with you in terms of from patio. I can track literally hour by hour sales, and I can tell you as to whether or not it has driven the sales, and I'm happy to share that with council and anybody that wants to know. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your information. Councillor Dudek.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much for your presentation and for the opportunity to once again discuss or explore this venture further. I know you've had conversations with both myself and Councillor Demoff in regards to your proposal. The one thing I did want to ask was pertaining to the Barrie model. I think you were saying for the first year it was free. Then what did it go to after that? Was it by a square footage rate versus a set parking rate?
Yes, I mean, the equivalent for my patio in Barrie, same size as within Oakville. In Oakville, on a year basis, it would be about $4,200, I believe, in the fee structure here. And in Barrie, it would be about $400. So they do it by a square footage charge, which I believe is around 20 cents a square foot. And so it's far less onerous on the merchants.
Your Worship, I wonder if I could maybe ask of staff, the 4,200, how did you calculate that? Because I don't know whether I'm taking into consideration the fee that we're already talking about waiving, plus that $20 parking stall fee was, I thought, the tipping point in terms. So how did you come at the 4,200 is my question.
The 4,200 was the $750 and then the $20 a day. And that was on an annualized basis to be able to go and look at annualized from, I believe it was May through to October.
Thank you, Councillor Dudek. Mr. Miller, could you just do the math for us?
Yes.
out loud?
Absolutely.
$20 a day. How long is the patio season?
For us, we open as early in other jurisdictions as April. April.
So would it be 6 months?
Yeah, I mean, it's very hit and miss on both shoulder sides of the patio season, but the official launch to it would be in May, 1st of May, through to Thanksgiving.
All right, so I think our calculation might be a little different than $4,200 for the $20 a day. But you're basing your $4,200 based on, you're extending that $20 thing, is that right?
But that $4,200 also includes the $750.
Sorry?
There's a $750 charge for the extended patio, as well as the 20 a day.
Okay, thank you for clearing that up.
No problem.
Thanks for your information.
Thank you.
Councillor DeMoff.
When you calculated that, were you calculating 6 or 7 days a week? Because when I spoke to Mr. Cozy, I think they were only talking about charging for 6 days a week, which for 6 months would be $2,880 times plus the $750.
I was doing it on 7 days
Yeah,
a
I
week
thought
because
you
we're open
probably
7
were.
days a week. That's my mistake. I missed that part.
Now, you sent me the Barrie bylaw, and I think it was 10 cents a square foot, and I think Port Credit, you told me was 75 cents a square foot for these patios. Do you know any other municipalities where you have restaurants where you've got patios and you're paying for square footage?
I don't. In the other municipalities that I'm within, I have patios that I don't pay for. I pay for a one-time fee, but there is no ongoing cost of any kind year to year. So in my top of my head, out of 26 shops, we have patios in a little bit more than half. So those are the only two that I pay.
Okay, thank you.
Starting at the other end, Councillor Khan, then Councillor Adams. Any others? Councillor Khan.
Thank you. Thanks, Mr. Miller. We chatted at the last community meeting as well. I want to go back to what the mayor was talking about, the $20 a day, first of all. How many, if you were to build a patio there, how many tables would you have there? How many seats would you have there?
16.
Okay, so 16 seats. And I guess, and I'm not a business owner. By the way, I have been to your place, so I understand how it operates, and I'm familiar with it. But you don't think you guys are going to make your $20 a day back with 16 seats? I mean, don't you think you'll make a lot? Isn't there a business case to be made for that, for having the patio?
If there wasn't a business case, then I wouldn't be doing it, so absolutely. It's more around the first year, so it's in terms of the cost that's upfront to be able to go and build the. So in terms of an ongoing in future years, do I think that it's a good payback? Yes. Do I think it's slightly high in terms of the other market that I mentioned in terms of Barrie? I do, but I understand that there needs to be a fee. I'm not asking for a waive beyond 2014.
No, I was just wanting to make sure, because you said that you wanted to be a guinea pig. Clearly, it wasn't completely altruistic. There was a business case to be made that there is profitability, and you expect returns on this type of investment going forward.
Absolutely. To be clear, I want to be a guinea pig on behalf of all of the restaurants in downtown Oakville, to the fact that hopefully it's a good business case for all of us. So the point is not to be able to have one or two patios. The point is to test out whether or not we could have a community of patios down there that will draw people in of all different dining occasions, of all different meal times. I'm just one of them.
And you own several locations, do you not?
26.
And are they all on a main street like you have in Lakeshore, or are some of them in a plaza? And that free parking wouldn't be applicable there?
I only have one within my network in a plaza in Ottawa.
The rest are all on main strips where there is parking or there isn't parking?
Main Street in Milton, it's Water Street in Peterborough, it's King Street in London, it's King Street in Waterloo, it's...
So Councillor Adams and I were just chatting. Clearly, we're not traffic engineers, but would it not be, and maybe you can help us out on this, I think more people would be reluctant to go downtown if they knew that there was free parking and they were always used up. That because of the free parking, there wouldn't be enough turnover that they could get parking. Would you disagree with that? Would you agree with that? Or is that a concern?
I think it comes back to the multi-pronged approach which staff's brought forward. One of the major ones in downtown Oakville is the people just don't know where the parking spots are. And so one of the recommendations is the proper wayfinding. So there are, of the 1,800 spots, and I'm sorry, I don't know offhand, maybe staff would know how many of the 1,800 spots are actually on Lakeshore versus in the other parking spot. So it's a small minority that are actually right out front. The vast majority of the parking is not on Lakeshore. We need to change people's perceptions to the fact that there is lots. Downtown Oakville is open for your business. Let's take away any of the barriers that they have to it. In the J.C. Williams study, as well as the petition that Charlene's done, parking was a major issue.
Councillor Adams.
Thanks for joining us this evening. I have a couple of questions for you. One is you said that you track your business day by day and hour by hour. Do you track it also by table? And would you be able to track indoor and outdoor? Or indoor versus outdoor, I should say?
We do indoor versus outdoor. We're not able to track down to the individual seat, no.
Okay, but certainly indoor versus outdoor you could.
Absolutely.
Okay. And would you be willing to share that experience with us, should you have it?
Absolutely.
Okay. And finally, do you have any information for us about the importance or the difference between a weighted table versus a non-weighted table, a carry-out table? So if you, for a coffee shop, for example, might have patio space where you buy your coffee inside, you go outside and you have your croissant and your coffee out on the patio outside, that's a different model than what you might have where you'd be weighting the tables.
I don't have any data on it other than anecdotal, is that within full-service restaurant space that patios are a draw. From what I've seen in these other municipalities, if it's a nice day, it doesn't matter if it's Starbucks with a patio out front, which they always try to get a patio if they can. There's a reason why they do it, is that it's an attention grabber. Yeah, it's also, we even have a patio in one of our communities it's called the Glebe within Ottawa. It's literally 5 seats. So from a revenue standpoint, it's very difficult to be able to regenerate back those costs. But it's a signal to people, and it's a break of just a straight streetscape in terms of retail. As it juts out, it's an attention grabber. It says something else is going on. And people within the restaurant space want to be where other people are. It's the vibe that you like to go to. You don't like to go to those places that are empty. When you see people sitting out on the patio, it's a draw. Hey, I want to be there.
One last question. Are you familiar with Niagara Falls and Queen Street, their old downtown?
Very familiar, yes.
Do you, my recent visit there showed me that there were like hardly any patio space being used out there, despite the municipality making efforts to allow for it. Do you have a sense of why?
There's a reason why I'm not in Queen Street in downtown Niagara Falls, is that I wouldn't have enough sales to support the rent. So you could put patios and helicopters, but it wouldn't get me to Queen Street in Niagara Falls.
Well, maybe not you, but there are others. But in any case, thanks very much.
Let's make nice about our neighbors. Although it is a bit of a reminder how, for all the angst we feel about our own situation, it is pretty good. Councillor Grant and then Councillor Councillor Elgar and then Councillor Grant.
Thank you, through your worship. Just to set the record straight on Niagara Falls, I talked last Thursday to a councillor at the Niagara Escarpment Commission from Niagara Falls, and he said, in fact, it is picking up in that downtown, so they're pretty happy with what the trial they've tried down there. So in the early June it wasn't, but he said it's really picked up over the summer, so they're very pleased with what they're doing on the patios. I'd like to thank you for saying you'll take the plunge and put a patio in. I'd like to know what your feeling is and how many patios you think people may be interested in putting in this year other than yourself. I just wonder if you have any input at all, talking to the other restaurateurs.
I'll be honest, for this year, it would be a stretch. We're here at the end of July. By the time anybody gets a permit, you're talking the end of August. I can't imagine there's a lot of people that would put their hand up for this year, but for next year, certainly there'd be a lot of them. But I can't quantify it for you. I haven't talked to each individual of my fellow restaurant owners.
Okay, well, I'm hoping more than you take the plunge, and actually we do cut a deal for this year so we can really see how your business does. So thank you for what you're willing to do.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Grant.
Thank you. I actually have a number of questions about calculating covers and the difficulty of figuring out labor costs, but it doesn't seem pertinent to this topic, and we do have a long list of people coming to speak. So thank you very much for your time in coming out tonight.
Thank you, Councillor. There is a bit of a risk that we're getting a little weedy as we dive into this. Thank you, Mr. Miller, for your information.
Thank you, Councillor.
Madam Clerk?
Next delegation is Douglas McCurkin, Vice President on behalf of David Mallon, President of the Trafalgar Chartwell Residents Association.
Mr. McCurkin, welcome.
Item.
Thank you.
Council's looking forward to your information.
I have a presentation. I don't know, is it on the machine here? Do I press a button or something? Can somebody get me started, please? Oh, over there.
This is the first one?
Yeah. Okay, thanks. So, thank you very much for the opportunity to talk to this issue. I'm here representing the Trafalgar Chartwell Residents Association, and there we go. We have some concerns about the downtown planning project, or the downtown project. I do want to congratulate the council, the town, and the staff for the work so far. We think the process has been a very good process. TCRA has been engaged in it, and we support what has happened to date and staff's report. I guess we observe that the focus of the study so far has been on managing the project, and that by that I guess we mean things like defining the objectives and identifying options and engaging in public consultation and so on and so on. And it's been very good. But in a large project, there's another significant element, and that is managing the changes brought about by the project. And that's where our concern lies. Changes like the impact of construction on businesses, mitigation strategies, maintaining public support, dealing with changes demanded by the public as we go, and post-project marketing and incentive programs. I guess the bottom line is that we believe that a similar breadth of thinking and imagination, as has been shown so far with the study work and the project definition, needs to be launched, sponsored, with respect to the changes caused by the project, the impact of the construction on our neighborhood and on downtown. So just to, I guess, elaborate on this slide illustrates our concerns very simply. We see that huge change is coming to downtown and to our neighborhood. For many, downtown is what attracts people to Oakville in the first place. It's our signature, it's our brand. And we don't know precisely when. I heard from Mr. Miller that maybe the street reconstruction will be deferred a couple of years. But our general sense is that this construction is going to take place soon, and there's lots of it. It's not just the downtown streets and the cultural hub. Trafalgar between Lawson and Randall is going to be dug up. As far as we understand, Randall across to west of Kerr is going to be dug up. The two bridges are going to be worked on. And that doesn't even address this timetable. The developments in Midtown, the hospital demolition, the community center construction. So, we're anxious about the scale of construction and the impact on the neighborhood and on downtown. We feel that if not managed properly, the changes may very seriously damage downtown Oakville and the neighboring residential areas. The reputation of the entire town may suffer. That's a concern of ours. Public support for the project may evaporate if that happens. Public trust in the council may be damaged. On the other hand, well-managed change will maintain public support through the project and during the period of rebuilding our reputation as a town to live in and a town to visit. So I guess it's very important for me to say that we're not opposing change. We know it must happen, and we know that it will happen. But we believe council really needs to care about managing the changes brought about by the project. It will not be enough to manage the project well. The project's impacts need to be managed well as well. I guess the last slide here acknowledges that managing change is very hard. There are all kinds of project uncertainties in a large project, and everybody here, I'm sure, is very familiar with that. We can expect that there'll be public resistance as we go. There'll be active pushback from people who don't believe in it. There will be an exodus of businesses. We can already see it happening. And there'll be 11th hour engagement from people who haven't been paying attention and suddenly wake up to discover the streets are dug up. And then the last, I guess, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. I don't need to tell you that that communication, ongoing communication with all of the stakeholders, not just telling them what's going on, but listening to what their concerns are, is going to be vital. So we very much encourage council to budget for that in their thinking going forward on this project. I guess the last bullet there, project discipline versus public looseness, has to do with the fact that project managers hate change, hate changes to the project scope and project schedule. They're trained to protect project budgets and project schedules. So as we go forward with this project, there will be a tendency on the part of the project managers to stop listening to public concerns. And I guess we're going to count on council, as residents, we're going to count on council to counterbalance that. The project manager's perspective is entirely legitimate, but the public doesn't care about those things. The public has to live with outcomes. So a program to manage the changes brought about by the project must not be under the control of the project manager. It needs to be separate and report independently to council. So I guess I'm out of time. To recap, we urge the council to sponsor a broad and inventive program to manage the impacts of the project. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. McKerrigan. Councillor Giddings?
Thank you, Mr. Kurgan, for coming out and sharing the concerns of the TCRA. One of the mitigation strategies was the possible construction of a new parking garage based upon the results of a feasibility study. I take it you would be in favor of that?
I can't say that I am. I guess the TCRA position is that we are not experts in this field. We're not engineers, we're residents. We very much support the idea of a multi-pronged approach. We support the idea of the council considering any methods of ameliorating the impact, whatever works. So we're not ideological about parking, free parking, extra garages. If that is a solution and it works, we support it. I guess that our worry is that as this project moves forward and as the construction begins, there is going to be huge disruption, and people, the public at that point, is going to pay attention.
So do what we can up front. Well, we share your concerns, and we'll continue to work with you. Thank you very much.
Mr. McKerrigan, I know you know that council has requested of staff an extensive mitigation plan and program to be brought forward before the project begins. And I hope we can count on TCRA and the other residents to be concerned about that and participate in the public airing and debate of that when it comes.
Yeah, we will, definitely.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Madam Clerk, the next delegation.
Next delegation is Templar Tsang Trenaistich on behalf of the North Oakville Community Builders regarding item 12 of the Community Services Committee meeting.
Welcome, sir. Council looks forward to your information.
Thank you. You did an excellent job of pronouncing that last name. Once again, my name is Templar Tsang Trenaistich. I'm with Delta Urban Inc. We are the group managers for the North Oakville East Landowners Group. And North Oakville East Landowners Group is approximately 2,000 plus hectares worth of participating ownership within the secondary plan area. About 80% of the frontage of 6th Line is owned by membership of the North Oakville East Landowners Group, so I have a significant concern with the proposed approval as it currently stands of the environmental assessment for 6th Line between Dundas and Highway 407. I was before committee last Monday, and I'll promise to keep my submissions quick and to the point as well. Our comments and concerns are identified in our letter and the various letters from our landowners group, so I don't propose to repeat them. As I mentioned, we have had several meetings with staff. We've got another meeting with them in the first week of October, and what we're asking for is a deferral of the approval of the EA such that we can address those concerns and continue that dialogue. I think that the 2 or 3 month delay in this regard will provide for a additional time in order to work out those details and produce a better final approval that will hopefully address our concerns as well. Our concerns don't just touch on construction timing, but also conflicts with proposed infrastructure, as well as conflicts with the secondary plan, as well as inconsistencies between draft plans as filed to date based on the secondary plan versus the ultimate condition of the road should it be approved as a 31-meter cross-section pursuant to the EA. As I mentioned, I think those are the main topics that I really wanted to cover, as they're all outlined in the letters attached to the staff report. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Otherwise, again, we were, with respect, to request the deferral until the fall. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your information. Madam Clerk, the next delegation.
Next delegation is John McMullen, Chair of the Association of the Oakville Harbor Stakeholders, regarding item 10 and Harbor's feasibility and capacity study, phase 1, item 11 of this Community Services Committee.
Welcome, Mr. McMillan. Council's looking forward to your information.
Thank you, and good evening. Excuse me. My name is John McMullen. I'm Chair of the Association of Oakville Harbor Stakeholders. I wish to speak briefly to the Community Services Committee report tabled this evening, and specifically, as mentioned, the Settlement Management Study and the Recreational Boating Feasibility and Capacity Study referenced in that report. Yes, the Community Services Committee heard my presentation last week. However, I did wish to address Council as a whole, and in particular, those not in attendance at the Community Services Committee meeting. AOHS was glad to see the acceptance by Community Services Committee of staff's report and both studies. It was suggested that perhaps it was not necessary that we delegate this evening. However, we felt it was necessary to use the occasion to emphasize the importance of these two studies, two initiatives that have significant implications for Oakville's harbors. The Sediment Management Study contains several worthwhile recommendations regarding both the reduction of sediment entering the harbors and management of sediment once it reaches the harbors. AOHS supports those recommendations. That said, the report in itself is not an end in itself. Rather, it represents or presents the town with options and tools that should be investigated further and which, once implemented, will help ensure that the harbors are viable and sustainable operating units. Yes, on occasion, AOHS and the town may have differences of opinion on certain matters. AOHS has among its members a number of knowledgeable and credible individuals. These volunteers author their opinions and suggestions in a constructive manner. Going forward, we suggest that a healthy and respectful debate is beneficial, and as we work with staff to address these matters. Phase 1 of the feasibility and capacity study concludes that demand for harbor capacity, in other words, boat moorings, will significantly exceed supply in the future, and that a phase 2 investigation of options to increase capacity and how these options might be implemented should proceed. Ms. Liz Bennion presented on behalf of the Trumpeter Swan Coalition at last week's Community Services Committee meeting. I've known Liz for a number of years. I respect her zeal and energy. However, in the course of promoting the Trumpeter Swan cause, I was disappointed with the disparaging remarks made regarding the feasibility and capacity study and her questioning of the efficacy of the consultant's research methodology and the data produced, questioning whose bidding the consultant was in fact doing, and misrepresenting the boating community, the Mowat study recently released, among other things. I don't want to address those remarks. What I do want to say is that the objective of phase 1 of the feasibility and capacity study was to profile the recreational boating market, to identify current capacity and trends, and to determine whether or not there is identified future demand to justify a phase 2 study. This is precisely what it did. Phase 2, provided it proceeds, will explore options to meet this additional demand and will look at location, cost, the partnerships required, financing, and other issues. There are no foregone conclusions in terms of the number of marinas or their location. These matters will be addressed in phase 2. Ms. Bennion also raised a valid point about environmental considerations. Had she been at the recent Association of Oakville Harbor Stakeholders open house, she would have heard me and others state that any initiative going forward must be with full consideration and assessment of the social, economic, and environmental factors. In the years ahead, we will be contending with a growing population within Halton Region, an increased populace that will require increased amenities. Those amenities include harbors and all that they entail. harbors, both existing and perhaps new. Harbors not solely for boaters, but for the community as a whole. Anyone in Bronte Harbor on Canada Day, in either harbor on a summer evening, or involved in the Downtown Cultural Hub initiative would readily agree that Oakville's harbors are an integral part of the fabric of this town. They are also Halton Region's gateway to Lake Ontario. The two studies in question provide valuable guidance as we work to sustain the existing harbors. In the case of Phase 2, the feasibility and capacity study that will explore options, this will be a stepping stone to the development of a master plan for the harbors, one that will establish a vision for the future and chart a course forward. There is an opportunity here, and I hope we seize it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for so faithful a rendition of your CSC presentation.
Oh, a bit briefer, wasn't it? Vicki, there's a copy.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, there's a submission to be collected.
There's a copy of the presentation.
Thank you.
No questions.
Madam
Thank you
Clerk,
very much again.
Thank you, Mr. McMillan. Madam Clerk, the next delegation.
The next delegation is Wayne Hussey here, Chief Operating Officer of the Oakville Gymnastics Club, regarding the Canada Revenue Agency CRA-HST audit mitigation strategies, item 5 of the ASC.
Mr. Hussey, welcome. Pleasure to see you again.
Thank you, Mayor Burton. Thank you, councillors. I presented last week, so I will keep it brief as well. Again, last week I thanked the staff for all their efforts, met with them quite a few times over this issue, and also support, obviously, the recommendation that council will be putting forward. So I just wanted to mention just a few things that I think should be repeated for everyone. Is about 12 to 13 years ago, the town came to our gymnastics club and asked us to be a partner with them, so that they could get a Trillium grant or apply for a Trillium grant. That Trillium grant application was successful. It was $2.7 million. You needed 3 partners. One had to be a non-for-profit organization within the community. That was us. So since then, we built, or we paid for the building, which was $3.3 million, was the gymnastics club cost. Our share of the $2.3 million was $756,000. We've been in there 8 years. We've increased our membership from about 800 a session to about 1,700 a session, and we're still busting at the seams, so obviously there was a need at the time. The town got the arena twinned, and they also had the library expansion, so everybody benefited. So we entered into this partnership financially as well. The town loaned us $1.7 million out of that 3.3. We fought a little bit. They wanted a 10-year deal. I understand why. We wanted 20 because we weren't sure exactly. This was new territory for us. And it turns out that we've made 2 prepayments, one of $500,000, one of $300,000. So we'll hit that 10-year mark, if not sooner. So we're proud of that. And we respect, obviously, our partnership with the town. So we wanted to make sure that if there was a way we could do that, we would. So this audit from the government really kind of took us aback because they've deemed this to be a lease and not a partnership. So now they're trying to get back HST on a non-for-profit club that can't charge HST. You cannot charge HST on programs for kids under 14. So we appreciate the fact that the town has recognized this, the council has recognized this and is going to look into, I guess, fronting the money until at least the appeal has been looked at. The town has the asset. We've honored the agreement as set out by the town, and I think we've handled ourselves professionally every step of the way for the last 8 years, and we'll continue to do that as long as we continue our partnership. So thank you for your time. Any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you very much. It's a tale that needs to be told, and you told it very well.
Thank you very much.
Madam Clerk, the next delegation.
The next delegation is Richard Malinsky on behalf of Challenge Golf regarding the Specialized Transit Service Area, item 5 of the CSC committee meeting.
Mr. Malinsky, welcome. Council looks forward to your information.
Thank you, Mayor Burton. Councillors, my name is Richard Malinsky. I'm the current chair of Golf for the Physically Challenged. This is a small Oakville charity that has been, in effect, working since 1990. This year we've had to move because of the closure of Family Golf that many of you probably are aware of. Unfortunately, the caravan service that we've been relying on and have appreciated to a great deal doesn't provide service to the place that we are currently serving our physically challenged participants. And we would all like to have a caravan service. At the discussion last week, Councillor Elgar asked some questions and requested some data, some use and forecasting data. And Director Cole, who I must say has been extremely approachable and positive in answering my questions, was stating that forecasting is very difficult, and it is difficult. So I agree with him. I think that my request for caravan service was not intended to be, as one person mentioned, sounded like reverse discrimination. We just wanted to have, or we want to have, caravan service to the current venue so our people can get there reliably. What we heard was that costs are always a stumbling block, and I agree. Everybody has to massage their budget depending on the vagaries that they face. We have to do the same. So, unlike last week, I would like to suggest that Oakville used Golf for the Physically Challenged in a pilot project to see what the real costs are to assist in forecasting use, and perhaps to gather information prior to 2017, at which time the Ontario Accessibility Act will come into full effect, and we'll have to know and provide services at that point. So it's simply a request to, for action, so that it's not very big charity, and not many participants, but they do rely on caravan service. Thank you. That's all I want to say.
Thank you very much for your information and the suggestion. Councillor Elgar has a question for you.
Yeah, thank you for coming tonight and for your new suggestion. I just wonder, how many people do you think will take advantage of this service?
Well, last year, we have currently only 17 people. Most of them have had strokes. Some have Parkinson's. Last year, I think 3, 4, or 5 people used the caravan, but Director Cole probably has better statistics on that. Currently, there are 3 people who use, they get rides with other people and call on the Red Cross. The Red Cross has looked into the services that we provide and see them and recognize them as therapeutic services, both physical and mental, and so are willing to drive our people. They're not always able to have volunteers. So currently we only have 3 people that use the Red Cross.
And these 3 people are from Oakville?
And they're from Oakville, yes. And the other issue that came up, I think, is important in that we only have 2 sessions a week. They run Monday and Wednesday from 1 to 2:30. It's not a peak time. One of the difficulties, of course, is how many people are going to go up there at that time. It's like anything else. Director Cole was very clear on that. If we provide a service, then more people are going to use it. And that's why I suggest a pilot project, that you can limit the costs to a particular service in the meantime, before the 2017 crush.
And the reason you're saying 2017 is because, in fact, there are new rules and regulations that will come into effect at that time.
Yes, and in fact, the Act has phased in rules and regulations, and Transit Commission is now, Oakville Transit is cooperating and acceding to those phased in. 2017 is the final phase.
Thank you very much for your information.
Thanks. Oh, Councillor Demoff.
Thank you for coming out tonight. And while I appreciate the problem that you have and what you're asking us for, my understanding, and I wasn't at Community Services Committee, I'm on the other one, is that we've had other requests from people who require service, and
Yes.
and it's difficult to accommodate one person without accommodating everyone. And so,
Yes.
so we've made the decision as a council to maintain the routes within where Oakville Transit goes. So I hope you understand that. My question for Mr. Cole, what is changing in 2017? Will we be required to provide caravan service outside of where Oakville Transit goes, or will it still be within where our service is provided?
Through Mayor Burton. The change coming in 2017 is with respect to eligibility. The reason we referred to it in committee and the reason that I believe Mr. Malinsky is referring to it now is because it's a very substantive change. It will cause a very significant rise in demand for the paratransit service, but it does not have anything to do with the service area.
Okay, thank you.
May I make a comment? No.
In the circumstances, council isn't where we have, this is becoming committee work.
Yes, I know.
Why don't we see if would you be content to take your ideas and consult with the transit director? Council doesn't have a tradition of making decisions on the fly without adequate staff work and research behind it. So we're diving now into both speculation and detailed speculation. Wouldn't you be better to pursue it with the director to develop your ideas and see where you want to go with that? Otherwise, Councillor Giddings, do you have a question?
More of a comment, Mr. Mayor. We talked about this at the CSC committee, and we've requested that staff come back to the Accessibility Advisory Committee and that the delegation come as well, so we can have that discussion further at the Accessibility Advisory Committee.
This council is a council that has increased transit service extraordinarily over the last 8 years. We've increased by 50% by a dollar measure. You're talking to a council that wants to have good transit service. We just don't want to do it on an ad hoc basis at the tail end of a committee report at council. So if you take my suggestion, I think it'd turn out best.
I totally agree with you, Mayor Burton, and certainly that was my intent. I thought I'd come here tonight so that I would make sure that everybody knew that Golf for the Physically Challenged appreciates caravan, but would like to have it for them so that they can participate in the livable Oakville. Otherwise, they can't.
And thank you very much for doing that. And there was a previous delegation that wanted the entire council to hear what the standing committee had heard. And it may be that our division into two standing committees needs to be re-examined, and perhaps we need to have a committee of the whole where everybody's there so that everybody can hear. But in any case, that goes beyond the purpose of your presentation this evening. Is there anything else?
No, that's fine. From what you've said, I certainly agree with what you're saying.
Wait, there's more. Councillor Lapworth.
Thank you, Mr. Malinsky. So as I understand it right now, you can get your folks to the intersection of Bronte Road and Dundas, is that correct?
The caravan will do that, yes.
Okay.
As far as I know, they will, yes.
But based on the existing
we haven't
arrangements?
tried it, but...
Oh, I understand. Okay, so how many folks would actually go on Monday from noon to 1:30, and how many folks would go on Wednesday from noon to 1:30?
Well, I think that we have 8 usually going on Monday and about 5 going on Wednesday. So I think that on Monday, if the service is there, I would think that 4 would be going on Monday and 2 or 3 would be going on Wednesday. But that's my estimate.
Okay, now, do they take huge golf bags with
No, we
hundreds of
supply.
golf clubs? Or
No, we supply that.
the clubs are provided by the facility?
Yes, we do.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor. One more time. Anybody else? Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much.
Madam Clerk's next delegation.
The next delegation is Doug Sams, Executive Director of the Kerr Village Business Improvement Area, regarding item 9, strategies for Oakville Main Street commercial areas.
Welcome, Mr. Sams.
Thank you.
Council's looking forward to your information.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the council and the Community Services Committee and staff for all their hard work, because what started out as a parking initiative turned into great dialogue. And we support the initiatives that have been undertaken, and a couple of them are, like the Ambassador Program has already started this last weekend, and we're much appreciative of that. And the whole, I don't think there's any one solution to the things we've been talking about. I think it's a whole pie. And a small slice of that pie is probably dealing with some type of parking issue. I'm here on behalf of a couple of merchants. After the committee meeting last week, I was excited about the proposals and the direction we were headed, so I went back to some of the merchants. A couple of those merchants were in the June 17th meeting. And they were a little bit let down a little bit that there wasn't something dealing with the free parking. And I will say, before I personally attended that meeting, before I went, I did Google all the articles on the Burlington free parking program. It started out, they had it the month of December, made some modifications. They're having it this summer on Saturday and Sunday. And that's what I would like you to consider, is free parking on Saturday, because we're talking about 9 hours during the summertime. And I think Councillor DeMoff brought up a great point. Maybe the BIA should be willing to share some of that cost, because there's got to be a give and take. And one of the things I discovered when I Googled the parking is that some guy wrote a book, "When is Parking Not Free?" So there are issues. I think it's a little slice of the pie. I think if you look at the notes from the June 17th meeting, everybody from Oakville, from Bronny, Bronny doesn't have to worry about it so much as Oakville and Kerr, but everybody agreed there should be some type of free parking, but nobody could agree on just what it was. I think the 20-minute stop and go is great. I think thinking outside the box is great, but we would like you to consider Saturday free parking, because one of our mottos in Kerr Village is get feet on the streets, and so that will by all means necessary. So thank you for your time, Mayor. Thank you, councilors, and I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Sams. You've done a good job. There aren't any.
Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, the next delegation. All right, that ends the delegations. So, Council, we now return to our regularly scheduled agenda. You have your Standing Committee of the Whole reports, CSC and ASC, and I'm expecting some kind of mover and seconder and separations. I'll start at the end. Councillor Johnston.
I'll move them.
Councillor Johnston moves them. Is there a seconder? The seconder is Councillor Elgar. All right. Councillor DeMoff.
I'd like to separate item number 9, please.
All right.
From
Any
CSC,
others?
I'm sorry.
Any other separations? Shall I put the vote on the rest? All those in favor? Opposed, if any? The rest are adopted. Councillor DeMoff, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. As I said before, I'm not on CSC, and one of the things that did come up were, first I have to thank Councillor Duddick for moving the addition of the bike corrals, if I could. But I did want to discuss the patios and the fees that we're charging for those. And I would, I know the clerk distributed an amendment that would see the fees be amended as follows: that the $20 a day in lost revenue be waived for 2014 for up to 2 businesses in each business district based on a first-come, first-served basis, and that staff report back with best practices and market comparables in other municipalities to determine what fees would be reasonable for 2015 and 2016. And the other fees and conditions would remain the same as in the report. Can I speak to that for a moment? Okay. So there's a few reasons why I would like to see the lost parking revenue fee waived. One of them is that Bronte doesn't have a parking charge, so it naturally gives businesses in Bronte an advantage over Kerr Village and downtown because they wouldn't face the same fees to put in a parking or a patio. And as Bruce from the Works mentioned, in Barrie and Port Credit, they actually waived the fees in the first year to give those patios a chance to take off. We're only talking about 2 months here. So, and in addition, the fees that they charge are much smaller than what we're looking at charging. A 15 by 17 foot patio in Port Credit would cost $192 a month versus $480 in Oakville. So I think it's important that we not only waive the fees for this year, and hopefully there's more than just the Works that do take up the town on putting these in. But I also think we need to review the fees for the other 2 years in the pilot project. It's one thing to put in place these patios and outdoor merchandise things. It's another to make sure that they're successful. And we need to look at municipalities where they have been successful and find out why. And if we're charging too much money and making it too expensive for anyone to take advantage of it, then we might as well not even bother doing it. So something else is, in theory, if these patios flourish, they will be bringing additional people downtown, and those people will be paying for parking places that wouldn't be used otherwise. So in theory, to base it on a lost parking revenue, in fact, we might be actually increasing our parking revenue by allowing them. So I would ask for council to support waiving the fee for 2014 and that we take a look at it for the remaining 2 years of the pilot program.
So that last bit, is that, you're adding that to your recommendation here?
What's that?
That you extend it for the next 2 years?
Did I say that?
That we look
Sorry.
at extending it for the next 2 years? Yeah, I thought you did.
2 months, sorry.
Okay, 2 months.
For the 2 months, and that they report back on best practices for the remaining 2 years.
Okay, good. Thanks for clearing that up. So that we have two, Councillor Duddick and Councillor Elgar.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm very, very supportive of this, and I appreciate being able to discuss the issue with my colleague at length, as well as Mr. Miller, who was very free with information in regards to practices, as he mentioned, in other communities. I think this is a perfect example where, similar to what we discussed earlier in the meeting about going halfway or meeting somebody halfway, to offset costs, we've got an individual who's willing to walk the talk and is offered himself up, as he mentioned, as a guinea pig. And it also, to my way of thinking, addresses that huge pedestrian component that is so vital to a business district that is thriving. And the pedestrian traffic and the presence is paramount. So I'm hoping there'll be others who will also seize the opportunity. And again, I think it's extending that helping hand at a time when they need it.
Thank you, Councillor Duddick. Councillor Elgar?
Thank you. Through your worship, I wonder whether Councillor Demoff and Councillor Duddick would see a friendly amendment to modifying this proposal to that the $20 per day lost revenue fee be waived in 2014, and scratch up to 2 businesses. I see that as trying to make it fail by limiting it to 2. And maybe only 2 will jump in this year, but I think if 5 jumped in, it would be so much better because this will work. And I think if we're going to do it, let's not throttle the project. Let's try to make it work. So I'm fully supportive of what they're trying to do. Feet in the street is what you want, and this will bring people down because people are driving elsewhere to sit outside of patios. So I fully support it. I think it's a good move. I know it's only half the season, but I think it'll work. But I just will not support it. I'd like you to change it to scratch the 2 businesses only.
I have no problem doing that, neither does Councillor Duddick. I think that's a good suggestion, and you know, if we can get more businesses to do it for the short term, I have no problem with that.
Councillor Adams?
I just have a question of our staff, if they could tell us, A, if they have any improvements they might suggest to us on this, and second, I agree with Councillor Elgar in scratching the extra words. I think that's correct, that we shouldn't be only favoring two. If there were more, to be fair, I think you have to extend it to everybody. And I also agree, I don't think there's going to be 1,000 businesses storming the gates to want to do it. It'll be a small number. Do we have any that are currently there that might feel hard done by the fact that we're introducing this partway through the year?
Any what, Councillor?
Are there any businesses currently that have space that would be paying any kind of fee like this, that would look at this and say, how come they're getting it, I should have got it?
Councillor, the staff at CSC reported that they would offer refunds to those
Thank you.
businesses.
As I wasn't on CSC, I did not hear that.
Okay. If there's no other discussion or debate, I'll put the vote on that amendment. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? The amendment carries. The main motion I consider to be moved by Councillor Johnston and Councillor Elgar, just separated from it. I'll call the vote with your permission. All in favor? Opposed, if any? And that also carries. So that takes care of both standing committee reports and brings us to the consent item. Council, we need a mover and seconder to deal with your consent item. Councillor Robinson moves it. Councillor Elgar seconds it. Discussion, all in favor? Opposed, if any? The consent item number 1 is carried. Council, you have a confidential consent item, and I'm expecting you could move that. Councillor Elgar does. It's seconded by Councillor Grant. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? Ladies and gentlemen, with the greatest of pleasure, I can now report that Council has just appointed Vicky Titanic as Town Clerk and adopted a bylaw, so making, so expressing that decision. So congratulations. You had a very successful tryout, obviously.
She's still here.
You didn't run.
She stayed with us.
So now, Council, if I could invite your attention to our discussion item, the Ontario Children's Outdoor Charter, which is a proposal by Councillor Adams and Councillor Johnston. And I'll invite Councillor Adams to speak to his item.
First of all, I think it was council that passed the test, not the other way around. But anyway, this is a motion regarding the Ontario Children's Outdoor Charter, and it's moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Johnston, and I'm very pleased for his support, and I look forward to the rest of council's support as well. And it reads, whereas the Ontario Children's Outdoor Charter aims to get children outside to discover the wonders of nature, whereas spending time outdoors is essential to every child's development, health, and well-being, whereas kids connected to nature grow up caring for the earth and helping to conserve biodiversity, and whereas the town of Oakville works to protect and enhance the natural environment, therefore be it resolved that the town of Oakville endorses the Ontario Children's Outdoor Charter. And I'd like to say that it being the middle of summer now, the town of Oakville is hosting 9,000 unique children taking part in town summer camps throughout the town of Oakville throughout the summer. And we have such a wide variety of programs that would astound anybody. And some of my children are taking part in some of the town camps. And I got to say, when I was a kid, I wish I could have done the same. And this charter is an opportunity for us to continue to find innovative and exciting ways to introduce kids to the outdoors and the natural environment. Our staff do an excellent job of this in many of the camps and programs that we already provide, and I look forward to giving them an opportunity to do even more. The Royal Botanical Garden over in Burlington in Halton is one of the members that's pushing forward with this, and they also do a wonderful job for many of the children throughout Halton. So I look forward to council's support of this, and for our staff to have the opportunity to look for new ways and innovative ways of introducing children to nature.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Johnston?
Thank you, Mayor. I'll echo Councillor Adams' comments. Anything we can do to get children active, not just in summer, but in winter as well.
should be endorsed.
Well, thank you. I know both of you were very active in the soccer club as coaches, so you certainly have done your part towards child activity. Councillor Adams, what is this leaflet that you passed out? Are these to-do lists for council?
This is a to-do list for you guys too. I presented each of you on your desks with one of the Ontario Children's Outdoor Charter checklists of activities, and it includes a set of activities that children could be challenged to try to do, and it includes such things as following a trail, exploring a park, harvesting something to eat, swimming in a lake, paddling a canoe, playing in the snow, and obviously that's not a summertime activity, but building an outdoor fort could be, and visiting a farm, camping under the stars, going fishing, observing the plants and wildlife, and creating an outdoor adventure are all things that any child could do, and I think every one of us should look for opportunities to give children those opportunities.
Thank you very much, Councillor. Councillor Duddick?
Thank you. Absolutely support it. I just find it odd, and I guess having been sitting beside my colleague for the last 3 or 4 years, there's not cycling. So maybe we need to send something off to them.
I don't think it's meant to preclude cycling by any stretch of the imaginations.
Yes, mandatory cycling. I can see it now. All right, if there's no other discussion, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed, if any, and that is unanimously carried. Council, that brings us to our new business, and you have a notice of motion which will be considered at the next council meeting on August 11th. And Councillor Robinson, did you want to speak to that tonight, or do you want to wait for August?
No, I'll wait till it comes up on the agenda.
Thank you, Councillor. Then, are there any regional reports or question period for Councillor Demoff?
I had some congratulations to extend, sorry.
Councillor Demoff.
Thank you. And what a surprise it has to do with sports. So there were a couple things that happened on the weekend. One of them, our Oakville's triathlete Kyle Jones defended his national title at the Canadian Triathlon Championships in Quebec on Saturday. So Kyle is heading off to Scotland right now, preparing for the 2014 Commonwealth Games in Glasgow, and I'd like all of us to join congratulating him and wishing him well. And then the second thing that happened on the weekend was that Oakville's Jordan McIntosh was a member of Team Canada, a field lacrosse team who won gold at the World Championships in Denver. I'm probably the only person that even was paying attention to that particular World Championship, unlike the World Cup that happened, but we did defeat the defending champion United States on Saturday night. So I'd like us all to congratulate Jordan and Team Canada. And then last but certainly not least, belated congratulations to Oakville's Dawson brothers, Dan and Paul, who recently won the National Lacrosse League's Champions Cup as members of the Rochester Nighthawks. And Dan was also named MVP of the championship finals. So Oakville produces lots of world-class athletes, and I invite you to join me in congratulating those ones.
Thank you, Councillor. I'm sure with your energy and enthusiasm, you'll have us all on bikes attending lacrosse games.
Sounds good.
Council, on your behalf, I would like to take a minute to congratulate and thank one of our members for the extraordinary service that he's provided the town ever since he became a councillor in 1976, which was 38 years ago. And he today, as you will probably have noticed in the media, announced that he will not be running to return to council. But I want to say a personal vote of thanks and appreciation to Councillor Bird, as well as a general one on everyone's behalf, for the extraordinary service that you've provided us and the town. And I do hope that I can continue to rely on you as a friend and neighbor when I need to know the history of something, because I've often said that if you don't know about a bit of history in the town, it probably didn't happen. So I just want to say congratulations and thank you very much. As is our custom, in November there will be a bigger to-do made about it, but I thought I should observe the occasion tonight.
Just must say, Ray is smiling, and because quite frankly, he's the only one, I think, in the room that's been there for all 38 years, right, Ray? And speaking of Ray, I mentioned in my press release that I had a unique opportunity. Normally, politicians don't have a shelf life that long, and having it that long, and having the opportunity to work with people like Ray and a fine staff that make us look good, quite frankly, that helps to the longevity. And a steady stream. I went through the pictures entitled, not counting the region, there's 100 and some odd different people like yourself that have come forward to serve this community. And it's been a labor of love to work on behalf with some of the people you saw tonight, the work on behalf of the Residents Association, to give your advice, to come up, to give their time, to say, hey, this is what we may be thinking of. That's valuable. So to work with them, to work with the politicians, and to represent the residents of Southeast Oakville, especially because that, what we're talking about today, that was really basically the heart and soul of our community, the people, the area of town we identify. I don't know what to say other than the fact that I'm going to miss it. I've left one time before and found out I did, but this time, at my age, it is for sure, but I will miss it forever. Thank you.
Let's everybody know we cheerfully broke that rule, and we would again.
And I was surprised, you took me by surprise, because on the weekend, I really wasn't sure what I was going to do, so I wasn't prepared for this.
Well, we all winged it very well then, I guess. Council, I'm not aware of any requests for reports, but I'll ask. Councillor Giddings?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've dropped off on the councillors' desks some background information and a request for report. As we know, staff has indicated that they'll be reporting to council in 2015 with recommendations for a revised traffic calming procedure. This request for report requests that staff schedule a turning movement count in the fall of 2014 at Wedgwood and Albion to determine whether warrants are met for all-way stop control. Further, that as there are 4 schools adjacent to Wedgwood Drive, report back on the procedure for implementing a school zone designation on Wedgwood. And lastly, that they report on the feasibility of a community safety zone status for Wedgwood. And I'm moving that, and Councillor Bird is seconding. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I believe you'll get support for that. All in favor? Opposed, if any? Look at that, the mayor was right. So if we could have a mover and seconder for the bylaws, Councillor Elgar, Councillor Robinson, thank you. So in addition to the bylaws listed in the public agenda, this is also authority for the bylaw that I mentioned earlier when we voted to appoint Vicky Titanic as our clerk, and that's bylaw 2014-097. So with that, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? And that is carried. That completes our agenda. Thank you very much for your time and attention. It's been terrific working with you, and we are adjourned.